Welcome everyone to the second part of the leadership series that we're putting on for District 64. Tonight we have our very distinguished Stephen Bryden with us tonight. Stephen is an experienced project management professional who has delivered several and varied projects and programs. He is currently embracing Toastmasters senior leadership development opportunities and is this year's Club Growth Director for District 64. He can personally attest that this was the best decision to step up and serve. The experience has exceeded his expectations. Today, he will present some foundational ideas for new leaders on the importance of setting goals and making plans to achieve them. Please help me welcome Stephen Bryden.
Thank you so much, Laverne. It's great to be here. I want to see. I'm just going to quickly change my screen here while admitting people in. I can bring up a slide deck here. Let's see if that's everyone. Everyone see my screen okay? All right, the name of the game today is goal setting and planning. So this is a session number 2, and I'll be speaking to the Leadership Excellence Series. Of course, Leadership Excellence Series at Toastmasters has developed is a really great series to go through, and this is a great content to learn from. So today's topic is setting goals and planning. And as Laverne has mentioned, in my professional career, I've been a project manager for several years. I've ran several projects of varying size, from enterprise scale to just technology projects to just very small initiatives. And the concept of setting good goals, setting strong goals, and then creating plans to achieve those goals is hugely helpful and is really a critical success factor in order to achieve any objective or any outcome that you desire. And from a Toastmasters perspective, stepping up into any leadership role, having some ideas on what is a goal, how do you set some goals, what's some thinking around that, and then creating a bit of a roadmap and a set of steps or a plan to obtain those goals. It can be very valuable at all levels, and especially for the new leader who might be contemplating to step up into a new growth role, a growth leadership role. So what is a goal? A goal is a specific objective you and your team must achieve. So that's a very general statement, but really it fits. It fits for what a goal is. It's some objective, it's some outcome that you're seeking to achieve. And as a leader, you're not alone. You have a team that you're going to be working with to help strive together to achieve that goal and to progress towards it. And simply said, a plan is the blueprint for achieving any sort of goal or objective. And oftentimes in projects, you're not just going to have one goal, you're going to have multiple goals, or you can have multiple different milestones, which are kind of like mini goals along the way to achieve in order to get to the final outcome or the final completion of whatever effort or initiative you're seeking to achieve. And of course, a perfect example is, as a new leader stepping up into a leadership role in Toastmasters, the Distinguished Club program, right? The DCP program. You already kind of have built in within the Toastmasters program a method of setting some goals based on the Distinguished program, and then working with the club executive and your club members on, okay, well, how are you going to achieve obtaining that distinguished status at the end of the year? So already within the Toastmasters life cycle or the yearly cycle, there's already kind of a set of goals and an opportunity to plan every year with your team as a club executive, or as an area director, or as a division director, and even district leadership. This past year, David Story, Michael Bear, and I, we got together and said, okay, the district success plan, what does that look like? And what are the strategies and approaches on how we're going to try to achieve district distinguished status? And of course, there's lots of talk that goes into that, but it all starts with, what are your goals? And, creating that blueprint to achieve those goals. Well, I noticed that someone is trying to get in. I'm going to have to kick out. Uh-oh, I lost my mouse. This is going to be fun.
Stephen, just if you make me co-host, I can do that for you.
Ooh, that's a good idea. Okay, so bear with me for a second. How do I do that?
You just go by my name and say co-host.
Make host. There you go. There you go. Oh, well, yeah, make you the host. Yay, Laverne, thank you. So if there's any more people coming in, then you can let them in. Many thanks in advance. All right, so I'll just get back on tracks and we'll press play for awesomeness. Okay, a plan is the blueprint for achieving these goals. So goals have certain characteristics. Now, we've got the first word up here already. It's already out on here for display, so it's kind of telegraphed. So does anyone want to take a stab at what kind of goes into creating a really good goal? Is there any characteristics that you can throw out? Just please just unmute yourself and throw any ideas out there.
Measurable.
Measurable, yes, that's a good one. Are there any others?
Under specific, it can't be vague, like one day I want to do this, but it should be more like, okay, by this time next year, I want to do this, and
Yes.
and this is how I'm going to do it.
No, I like that. Yeah, well said. Well said. Yeah, being specific. And you also noted another characteristic in there. You said by when. So that also means time bound. So we have specific, time bound, measurable. Are there any others anyone can think of? And it follows a really awesome acronym too. That's easy to remember.
Achievable.
Yeah.
Achievable, yes. And I think so that's 4. I think there's one more.
Realistic.
Realistic.
It should be smart, right?
That's right. Yes, absolutely. So I think we got it. So it's specific. So it has to be very tangible. So you can describe, well, this, you'll know exactly, like if you have it in specific terms, then it'll be easy to tell, oh yeah, we actually did what we said we're going to do. As in an example that I'm going to go through, like after I kind of go through the Excellence Series content here, is my family and I went through a journey. I call it the 30,000 pound journey. But we want to redevelop our backyard. So we tore down our old gazebo. We wanted to create a new living space, a new backyard living space with concrete pavers. So we kind of identified, well, what is it that we're going to achieve? So we want to build our a custom poured concrete paver backyard. So we kind of had that in specific terms. So when you get there, you kind of know, oh yeah, that we attained that, and it's measurable. Again, that kind of goes along with specific, like, are you able to measure your progress towards achieving that goal? How close are you to completing that goal? Action oriented. So in Toastmasters world, like action oriented, but achievable. So can you take action to achieve that goal? Realistic. And I've also heard it be relevant. So it has to be realistic in terms that, yes, you can achieve it. So it kind of goes along with achievable, but also relevant. Is it relevant to your overall strategic aspirations for what you're trying to do? So oftentimes within an organization, there's kind of a set of strategic objectives, and a project will be one piece of the puzzle to implement some sort of change or implement some new service that's in alignment and it's relevant to achieving the larger strategic objective. So, but realistic is good as well, and time bound. So instead of it just being open and vague, to Stephen Clark's point, and non-specific, and you don't know when it's going to happen, you kind of set a date, right? And that puts everyone on the hot seat. And now that creates a point of accountability, a point of accountability. And all these aspects kind of creates a point of accountability that helps describe what you're trying to achieve. So if you're specific about it and you're able to measure your progress against it, in Toastmasters terms, if it's action-oriented, as in it's creating some sort of progression to create a meaningful outcome. Is it realistic or relevant? So it's relevant to the direction that you're seeking to move towards, and time bound. Do you have that definitive date on when you expect to achieve that outcome? So really thinking in SMART terms is a good way to think about any goal building. So for that new leader, you can set up goals. You can set up lofty goals that are really big goals, or probably better, set smaller incremental goals, and objectives. So you can have a series of goals to help get you to the end. So you could have, as a new leader, I'm a new area director. So you might have an additional goal of, okay, by the second week into my term, I'm going to meet all my club presidents and VP eds within my area, and and it's realistic because 2-month time span is probably enough to meet four clubs, and it's action oriented because you want to connect with them, and time bound. You have a 2-month period to get it done. Specific, you just want to meet and greet and build rapport with the club presidents and VP eds. So that could be and measurable. So you can measure, I've met 1, 2, 3, all 4 clubs, through that period of time. So you can be really simple goals. And then the next goal could be, okay, I want to go and complete my first round of area director reports by date X. And you can you describe what that outcome looks like in terms of that goal, and then you strive to achieve it. So implementing goals. So that example I just went through is more from an individual perspective, an area director. But implementing goals oftentimes involves team members in setting those goals. So if you know that you're working with a group and that team will have to work together to achieve a goal, it's definitely critically important to involve those team members in setting those goals, because they'll help provide feedback on terms of, is it achievable? Is it relevant to what you as a team are seeking to achieve? It's beneficial to write down the goals. So by writing down the goals, it makes it more transparent. So it's easy to have a discussion, and then after the meeting's done, everyone tends to forget about the discussion, or it quickly disappears from the mind after all these other things start coming up. But if you write down the goals, it makes it a lot more tangible. And sometimes actually writing down the goal can make it easier to discuss again. So it can be a point of discussion with your team, saying, does this look correct? How we have it written down here. Does anyone have any feedback on how we can improve it? Are we missing anything? Maybe we've forgotten that time-bound date, or maybe it's not specific enough. So sometimes having it in written form makes it easier to discuss against. Of course, consider what you must do to achieve that goal. So that's kind of the difference between, are you going to make incremental goals, or are you going to make really big, lofty goals? And of course, when you start making big, lofty goals, you start getting into the realm of, is it achievable? And can we do it within the time and with the resources and the people involved? So sometimes you have to take a step back and consider, okay, what will it take to achieve this? And is it possible within the current constraints of your team in that given moment? Remember, measurable, right? The measurable piece of goals. So it's important to regularly review your progress towards achieving that goal. And of course, building a plan is an instrumental part of doing that, but being able to regularly measure and review your progress on how you're working towards achieving that goal is very important. So the planning process. So the planning process is very important. So first, you get a goal, right? And to Laverne's presentation last Thursday, you have a vision, right? We want to go in this direction. Follow me. We all have kind of that North Star, and then there's a set of goals to help get you there. But building a successive set of goals is also part of the planning process. So the planning process allows you to reflect on the goals that you'd like to achieve, and then decompose it into, okay, well, what are kind of the 10 steps that will enable us to achieve that next goal or objective. So just the act of planning helps reinforce how, because you have the goal in mind. So just by the act of making the plans, you're reinforcing, oh, this is how we're going to get there, because you're making the steps to get there. It makes planning also helps take you away from the immediate moment of keeping your head above water with all the activity that's happening, and helps you become a little bit more future oriented to anticipate, okay, well, here's the goal and here's the 5 steps ahead of us that we need to achieve the goal. So while you're working on step 1, you also have in mind, well, step 2, 3, and 4 ahead of you. So when you're working in the moment, whatever action that happens to be, knowing those successive steps will help orient you that, okay, I'm in the right track. I'm going to be completing step 1 by the end of the day, and then I'll be able to do step 2 tomorrow. So it helps you become a little bit more future oriented, and that's really important as a leader, because oftentimes the team will be working on the immediate tasks, and you as a leader having a plan and those future steps will help you orient yourself, but also your team towards achieving those objectives. It enables you to coordinate decisions, right? So clearly, if you're working in the moment and maybe some curveballs come out of left field that causes you to maybe want to pivot to left or right, or maybe away from your goal, that becomes a point of decision to say, okay, well, because of this change, how did we want to adapt to that change, or how do we want to steer in the appropriate direction so we can still move towards the goal that we've set. So that becomes an important piece where planning is very beneficial, because if you have that roadmap, it becomes much easier. Things are much clearer to say, okay, there's a challenge in the moment, but as long as and there's five possible ways that we can go. Well, if we pick these 3, then we're going to be moving in the right direction. These ones that are on the outside, yeah, they're good they look good on the outside, or on the face. On the face, they look good, but maybe they're not good in terms of the team's ability to achieve or advance to achieve that goal, which could be, achieving that distinguished club status. If it ensures efficient use of resources, right? So again, if you're chasing a squirrel that's taking you away from the goal, as in say you want to achieve distinguished club status, and one of the goals is that so many members have to complete so many educational pieces. If an idea comes up, oh, let's bring in a whole bunch of outside presentations, and we'll consume our meetings with guest speakers. But our members won't be actually doing presentations. They won't be gaining credits for doing pathways. So you might have to think about, okay, well, what is the optimal choice for bringing in guest speakers? Because guest speakers are really great, but if your goal is to maximize the number of pathways credits, then you might want to have a larger discussion with your club with the efficient use of your members to do pathways projects in order to get the credits, so they can, you can achieve that club status. So that can become again a point of steering for coordinating decisions, but also efficient use of your team resources, which in that case is your members, right? Your members delivering pathways speeches in order to get enough educational credits within the distinguished club program. So 5 steps to planning. So Toastmasters has a 5-step program for planning, but establish strategies. So you might have the goal of, we want to achieve a distinguished club status. So as a club executive, you have to come together and figure, okay, well, how exactly are we going to approach that? Some strategies could be, you're going to have a monthly meeting with your executive committee, and each of the different club officers will own their piece of the pie in terms of managing the club, and they'll report on marketing and open house campaigns, and the VP Ed can report on how they're ensuring that all the members are registered. But you can come together as a team to say, okay, well, what are some of the approaches that you can do together in order to achieve the goals that you've set out, and setting a timetable. So that's, again, really important. That goes along with setting SMART goals, right? So you have the goal that tells you, okay, by this date, we want to achieve this outcome. But when you have a plan, you might want to say, okay, well, by month 1, we want to do these things. And by month 2, we want to have everyone registered in Pathways. And by month 3, we want to have, everyone having their learning path set up and they're matched to a mentor. And step 4, so you can kind of build out a timetable within your plan, which will incrementally help you get to the end goal that you wish to achieve. Assign responsibilities. This is huge, 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 huge. Ownership and accountability is huge. So it's easy to say, this is what we're going to do. But if no one knows on who owns what and who's actually going to take away and actually do those different bits that are required to achieve that goal, everything goes out the window. And oftentimes it's it's called the diffusion of responsibility, where everyone talks about the plans, but then everyone simultaneously thinks, oh, someone else is going to do it. And if everyone in the team thinks, oh, someone else is going to do it, guess what happens? No one does it. And then nothing happens. And then everyone has sad faces at the end of the year because no action was taken because everyone thought someone else was going to do it. So when you're creating a plan with your team, it's really important to say, okay, Stephen, you're VP PR, you're responsible for building the posters and getting the word out there. And Vice President of Education, you're responsible for making sure that everyone's registered in Pathways and everyone kind of has a learning path in terms of when they're going to be delivering some of their speech projects on what they feel they can be accountable to, the members can be accountable to. So kind of assigning those point people to say, okay, you're going to own this and you're going to take this away is a really great thing. And it also creates clarity. People love clarity. The worst thing is that you create a plan and kind of no one knows what the heck's going on. And sometimes that unto itself can also cause frustration with the team. So kind of assigning those tasks and responsibilities is important. As a leader, and Toastmasters, servant leadership. So as a leader, we have a strong part to play in terms of anticipating any obstacles or roadblocks that are going to get in the way of the team as they try to work towards any work efforts or any tasks that they've been assigned. So being very attentive and listening, using your active listening skills in terms of what is the experience of all the different team members and how they're contributing to plans and any challenges that they're bringing up. Listen to what those are and then ensure to have discussions on, what might be possible to help remove some of those obstacles. Sometimes maybe there's too much on a person's plate to tackle within a certain time period, and that's totally valid. Everyone has work-life balance, Toastmasters life balance. So, oftentimes you have to right size, how much work someone can take on. Or sometimes there's tasks that have been assigned that maybe is not within their realm of control. It's actually maybe someone else has to be involved that has the skill set, or maybe is the responsible one to do that work. So then have a discussion about that, right size it, and make sure the right people are doing the right things. But it's all about removing roadblocks to enable your team's success. And the last point here, modify the plan as necessary. The worst thing that you can do in some cases, especially in today's environment when change is inevitable. And in the Toastmasters world, it's a little bit more consistent because we have the Toastmasters life cycle, right? And we go through the 12 months of the year. At the beginning, we got new officers, we do moments of truth, we build a club success plan, we come up with strategies and approaches and a set of goals in order to achieve become a distinguished club, or whatever level you're seeking to achieve, whether it's just distinguished or select distinguished or presence distinguished. But that's fairly consistent. But in the modern age, change is happening very rapidly. In my personal experience, even in my own workspace, in my own workplace, change is normal. And there's so many different transformative projects that are happening simultaneously. So being able to adapt, taking new inputs, what's the new context, and still having clarity on which direction you're going towards, but being able to adapt your plans to navigate, any changes or unexpected things that come your way. And in the Toastmasters world, unexpected things can happen, as in, oh no, you lose a whole bunch of members. Maybe you lose a bunch of members because maybe you're a workplace-based club and there's a major shift in reorganization causing many members not being able to renew because maybe they're moving to a different part of the organization. So there's a change. So you have to be able to come together as a leadership team, or as a leader, bring your team together to modify those plans as necessary. So again, making sure that your team is participating in planning is really important. Leverage the creative ability of your team. In my opinion, all ideas are good ideas, or worth discussing. I mean, of course, every idea is not the best idea for achieving every goal, but in terms of exercising a creative ability and creating team commitment and buy-in, it's really important to listen to all the feedback of the team members and to listen to all the great ideas, because it's through the creativity of the team that you'll find innovative solutions in order to achieve your goals. And you as a leader have an important part to play to help cultivate a really a good and a positive environment to enable that trust and the safety to enable people to share those ideas. And then as a leader, you just help steer, how closely is that going to navigate us towards the plan that we've set out and help us achieve those goals? And now it just becomes a team discussion, because if everyone's clear on the goal, right, SMART goal, and there's a kind of a series of steps, when that creative idea comes up, it becomes very easy to discuss, which idea is going to help get us there the best? Again, apply problem-solving skills. So sometimes you have to weigh the pros and cons and the constraints, what's possible within the team. So problem-solving skills in a large part is active listening, and as a leader, having a strong focus on, this is the goal that we've set. We've all agreed upon it. Okay, now let's just figure out the mechanics on how we can optimize on how we can get there. The planning process, of course, helps increase commitment to achieve the established goals. So by virtue of having people provide input into making plans, you're automatically going to gain commitment through those members, because they're actively helping build those very plans that you as a team are creating together. And if they're actively building it, they're more apt to say, hey, I'm on board with this. I agree with this. Let's go. Let's make this happen. So I've already touched on the Distinguished Club program, of course, is a built-in, this is the awesome thing about Toastmasters, learn by doing, laboratory of learning. So right here, for any aspiring leader or any experienced leader, just honing their goal building and plan building skills, leverage the Distinguished Club program. Take it. It's an opportunity waiting. You have goals kind of already built in. It already sets the stage for a great collaborative discussion with your executive leaders. Or if you're an area director, guess what? There's distinguished area goals, and there's also distinguished division goals, and there's also distinguished district goals. And actually, I'll put in some reference materials into the chat in just a moment about those plans. So just like at the club level, there's a distinguished club point program. There's also an area point program and a division point program, all part of the distinguished a program that Toastmasters offers. So yeah, I strongly recommend, as a Toastmasters member, leverage the Distinguished Club program. Use it to your advantage. Practice building goals as a team, and practice building plans as a team, and practice navigating those plans, and practice achieving those goals at the end of the year, and celebrate. You can celebrate. So in conclusion, goal setting and planning equals, can we say it together? A successful leader. Yeah, that's right. And, I know it seems simple, but it's really just in practice. And that's the awesome thing about Toastmasters is the opportunity to practice. It's a laboratory of learning. So all these leadership roles, whether it's a club officer, area director, division director, even a district leadership, club growth director, they're all opportunities to grow and stretch and practice those fundamental skills. And I can personally say in every role that I've taken on as a Toastmasters member, any leadership, like I'm constantly expanding and learning new things based on those core simple concepts, including the concepts that Laverne had presented last Thursday about visionary leadership, the importance of setting that North Star and that vision and galvanizing the team towards, okay, this is where we want to go. And then the next step down for that is like, okay, can we set some goals, achievable goals, SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, or realistic, and time-bound? Can we set those goals and now decompose again? Okay, let's create some milestone objectives and a set of steps, that plan to get there. And it's just practice that over and over and over again. And the more you do it, the better you get. And I can honestly say, as a project manager, it's definitely transferable into my success as a project manager in my professional life. I see that we're at 7:38, so I'm just going to go through a small personal example on setting a set of goals and building a plan. Several years ago, my wife and I, when we were living in our previous house, we had this old broken down gazebo in our backyard, and it was literally like it was a slow motion catastrophe because the roof was slowly sinking in every winter. Every time more snow would pack on every year, it just get lower and lower and more run down and beaten up. It was the ugliest monstrosity ever. So one year we decided, okay, we got to do something about this because it's just going to collapse and just be a pile of rubble. So we kind of set out and created a bit of a mission, a bit of a vision. And this is kind of allied to what Laverne had mentioned previously, but it is also kind of, in our case, a little bit more of a kind of a goal as well, because it's just something that we were going to achieve within that summer. So the few months, through the spring and summer. But the kind of goal that we set out, which is a little bit of a vision statement, was to build a new outdoor living space for a family to enjoy for many summers to come. Because the current state was we weren't enjoying that space outdoors because it was just this monstrosity that we're looking at. We didn't feel safe sitting inside the gazebo because it was all beaten down, and it felt like you're sitting in a dank, moldy smelling cave. So it really wasn't like an enjoyable space. So we kind of set that out for ourselves, and we said, okay, well, we want to do this before summer's end. So we kind of had that time bound. We kind of knew what we wanted to achieve, which was fairly specific. And we did refine that down. It's like, okay, we're going to tear it down. We're going to create some concrete pavers, and we're going to, kind of re-engineer our back step and just a little fencing, between our garage and our house to kind of close everything in. So we kind of had that vision and goal in mind. We wanted to have custom poured pavers, small constructed back step, and fence. So we kind of had the specifics in mind. It was relevant to us and realistic because we felt that we could achieve it. Although we had some trepidation because we didn't quite have the skill sets. So once we started getting into planning, so we kind of had a vision and goal. Okay, we knew where we wanted to go. We had a timeline on when we wanted to achieve it. But then it came down to like planning. Okay, do we have the right skill sets? Do we have the right resources? How much money do we have? Well, we didn't have much money. So I kind of influenced, okay, maybe the cheapest option at that time was put in a whole whack of sweat equity. I gained some muscle. My wife gained some muscle. And we didn't all have concrete pouring skills or mixing skills, but our neighbor did. So we were able to bring him in, and he helped teach us on how to use a cement mixer. And he had kind of the initial paver forms, and he kind of got us off to the races. But at that point, we kind of built out actually a rough set of steps and a plan to help get us there. So just some examples, so we're going to we're going to tear down the gazebo with our next door neighbor. We removed the old pavers and sell them. We jackhammered the concrete pad. We dug out and expanded the concrete pad where the old gazebo was on. We refilled it and re-leveled it and packed it down several times. And then we rebuilt the back step and rebuilt the fencing, and then we poured all the pavers, afterwards. And that was kind of just a sequence of events that we kind of just ironed out. And we figured towards the middle half of the summer that we'd be getting into pouring the concrete pavers. So we worked towards that. And we achieved it. We monitored our progress and kept on top of it. And we watched our time and progress in terms of how much time I was spending, and between my wife, we even got my kids involved a little bit with lifting some of the pavers. So it was definitely an odyssey. And the end result at the end of the summer, we achieved our goal. And having that goal, that lofty vision and goal, and then setting those incremental steps really helped enable us get there and achieve that success that we all desired. And that plan helped make things consumable, and you can visualize it. Instead of for all the forests and all the trees and like, I don't know what to do next, that plan really said, okay, well, we got to focus on tearing down the gazebo first, right? Step 1, step 2, we'll do this. Step 3, we'll do that. And that really helped make things easy to envision, which then helped us prioritize our time and helped us focus on the tasks at hand. So there you go. So there's an example, real life example, but of course you can use the Toastmasters life as an example in terms of the Toastmasters Year and Distinguished Club Program, or Area Director, Distinguished Club Program, or the Division Director Club Program. So maybe I'll just pause there. Are there any questions? Any questions? Open floor. All questions are good questions.
Oh, they're not very questiony today.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll start them off.
We've come prepared.
Yes, I'll start them off with one. I was thinking, as you were presenting, one of the ones that I came up with was, what are some of the challenges you've had just in figuring out what the goals are? Like in project management or Toastmasters, like how did you figure out what the goals were supposed to be?
So that's a very good question. So that's where it kind of comes back to what is the overall vision that you're seeking to achieve. So one thing that in the first round of district leadership training this past year, the one thing that kept on coming up, or it's a saying, you want to keep the main thing. And when it comes to district leadership, the main thing is the District 64 mission. Right. So Toastmasters International has a vision, right, and mission statement for the international level, but at the district level, we also have a mission. And in that mission, it's we build new clubs, and we support all clubs in achieving excellence. So when it comes to how we're going to plan, right, on what we're going to do for this year, as long as we have that mission in mind, and all the things and all the approaches that we're seeking to achieve supports, we build new clubs and we support all clubs in achieving excellence, that you're going to be on the right path. So that's kind of from a Toastmasters perspective, and that can help drive, what all the different levels need to do. For example, as a club growth director, having that mission in mind, of course, the club growth director has a huge part to play in that mission, because part of my portfolio, or my team's portfolio as a club growth director, is all extension and retention efforts. So the extension efforts are we build new clubs, and the retention efforts are we support all clubs in achieving excellence. So you can already see there's a fairly close alignment to that. So that helped dictate the understanding that oftentimes there's a challenge of, only do retention, all resources to retention, or all resources to extension. Well, no, it has to be both, because our mission says we build new clubs and we support all clubs in achieving excellence. So you kind of have to have focus on both to some capacity. I mean, there's a mix, but really it all kind of goes back to what that vision and mission is. What's that North Star? And then everything kind of decomposes from that. Oftentimes in the professional side, there's kind of the strategic aspirational goals that the organization has. in terms of wanting to affect change or advance or mature the organization in some way. One example at MPI is we had kind of a 3 to 5 year strategic ambition, we call it, and we want to become customer centric, employee empowered, and data driven. So those are core sort of strategic vision, aspirational things that we're seeking to achieve together as an organization. There's a project that's spinning up that I'm going to be a part of, that I'll be participating in some leadership of as a product manager, which is a little bit different from a project manager. But in that role, we're going to be going through a bit of a transformational change of upgrading it's called the human capital management system, but it's all the systems that supports our HR department or our people and culture division. And it's all fragmented. But the goal is to bring them together, put it into a cloud platform, which will improve overall employee experience and the ability of the people and culture team to deliver the services to the employees and to the rest of the organization. By having a consolidated cloud platform, it'll also enable a data integration, both vertically and horizontally aligned. So data intelligence and better reporting can come out, which is not possible through fragmented systems. So that's data driven. And of course, if you create a better experience for employees through better service delivery through the people and culture department, and you have data intelligence supporting data-driven decision-making, you're going to create better experience outcomes for those employees. And as a result of creating better experience for those employees, you're also going to be helping participate in creating high-performing teams, right? Because you'll have happier employees. Happier teams tend to perform better, and higher performing teams, of course, they create better customer outcomes, right? Customer-centric, customer-driven outcomes. So right there is kind of another example of, it's just a continual decomposition of, okay, well, what's your North Star? And then, okay, what's for this this tactical kind of change or project? Well, what's the scope and what is it seeking to achieve? What are its set of goals and how does it align? And then when you look at those goals, then that breaks down into, okay, what are the project plans? Then once you have the project plans, you can start to assign, and it just kind of gets more and more detailed until you get to, oh, George is going to do XYZ over the next 3 weeks to deliver on these sets of tasks, which it all kind of feeds up. I hope that helps.
Nope, that was good. Thank you. Any other questions from the floor now that I've started it off?
All questions. Oh, go ahead.
It's not a question, it's more like a comment. Emma Frost used to be a member of District 64 Toastmaster, and she was the district director. And she wrote a book called The Quick and Easy Way to Take Control of Your Life. And it's all about goal setting in that. It was really well written, and I really enjoyed that book.
Oh, Stephen, put it into the chat. Put it into the chat so others may maybe be able to find it.
So next question.
Yes, please. Yeah, all questions are good questions. Please.
Okay, well, if nobody's speaking up, then I'm going to ask, how far in advance do you do your planning once you had your goals? Do you have sort of a rule of thumb that you follow, or what's the plan to get to the plan?
Oh, that's a very good question. So it depends. It really does depend. So oftentimes, if the goal is really clear and the path is fairly clear, as in there isn't much complexity or uncertainty that could impact your plans, then it's fairly easy to build plans out into the future. But oftentimes, most projects are challenged because at the beginning, the least, because you're just starting on your journey. And of course, once you complete a project, you know everything because you've actually delivered it. And then there's everything in between. So you're always marching towards uncovering, all the details in order to deliver on that objective. And in some projects, things can be very uncertain, or there can be very lots of change, right? There's lots of change happening, or you might not necessarily have all the knowledge sets in that moment to anticipate all things in the future. So oftentimes you might have to change your approach on how you plan, and you plan to where you feel is effective. But as long as you have that strong North Star vision on, okay, well, we want to go here, right? At the end of the day, we want this outcome, but we don't know exactly how we're going to get there in every discrete step. So sometimes you have to kind of do iterative planning, right? So you plan for the first quarter, you plan for the next quarter, you plan for the next quarter, and you're always, re-level setting to course correct to get there. Because one of the challenges is, and this is a classic challenge in the project management world, there's kind of plan-driven project management, and then there's change-driven project management. In plan-driven project management, all the planning is done up front. You cross all the T's, dot all the I's, and you have like the 1,000 steps all sequenced out in perfectly. But often what happens in those scenarios is that, there's a kind of the blinders are on and people march to the plan, but they forget about the outcome that they're seeking to achieve. And then when everyone brings their heads up and they've marched through the sequence of 1,000 steps, instead of reaching the objectives, they're like way over here, often left field. And the sponsor is going, what happened? And everyone goes, I don't know what happened. We followed the plan. But of course, everything changed underfoot. That kind of caused the plan to become out of date, even though that they're keeping. So that's where, if you have checkpoints, and that's where measuring your progress becomes very important. So you can put up regular checkpoints to say, okay, are we progressing where we want to progress? Oh, okay, maybe we have to steer it a little bit, course correct. In change-driven planning, it's a slightly different way of doing things. So in waterfall, that's the kind of the plan-driven. You can just take steps there. In change-driven project management, it's more on the extreme side, as in, okay, we're going to set a series of objectives and we're going to set an incremental outcome that will get us closer towards the larger outcome. But it's very much focused on, what are we going to do in the next month or in the next 3 months, right? It's very small iterations. And then you deliver a small outcome or you achieve a small goal. And then everyone looks up at all the list of all the goals that you have to achieve and say, okay, what's next? And the team plans and then adapts and then kind of does it again. That's a very basic way, but it's just a little bit more of an extreme side of just embracing change. But the benefit is, if you do small cycles, every cycle is a point to review with the customer, right? Or the person who you're working for. Okay, are we getting closer to your goal? Provide us feedback. Okay, let's re-steer course correct. Okay, let's do the next chunk. Let's do the next chunk. So it can be very advantageous if there's like lots of complexity and uncertainty. And you just get industry disruption and all those things start to hit you. But the plan-driven one is very powerful, especially in the construction industry. Like, you're going to build a house and the house looks like this. You don't have to worry about bolting on a new room unexpectedly, or you don't have to worry about building another 3 levels of the basement, because everything's just, exactly what it is. So it's much easier to build like that sequence of steps. So that's where it depends. So it's kind of contingent on the type of work. Hopefully that's helpful.
Mm-hmm. Any questions from the crowd? Now that you've had a couple. Okay.
Doreen, did you have your hand up?
No, she was just scratching her head, I think. Okay. Well, then I've got another one here. So what are some of the tips you might highlight for an aspiring new leader? Like, you've taken on several leadership roles in the district. So what are some of your tips for somebody that might want to be a new leader or is aspiring to be a leader?
Don't wait. I waited way too long. You kind of get, I got trapped in a mindset where it's like, oh, okay, I got to learn all this stuff and I have to know it all before you do it. And that's not how Toastmasters works. Like, yes, you have to have a level of understanding and some level of experience, but you don't need 10 years of experience. For stepping up into an area or division director role. The minimum requirements escapes me, but they're not, decades worth of experience before you step up. I mean, you can be a member literally for a year or maybe a little bit longer. I don't know what the minimum requirements, but it's not very, very long. Step up, try it. You will learn an immense amount. And the growth opportunities in Toastmasters is completely like the opportunity is unsung. The opportunities are just everywhere. You just have to say yes, and then jump in and just be a little uncomfortable, but trust that the other members and the experience in the district and your fellow leaders and fellow peers, they're there to support you and get you through. And the whole purpose is to be part of a laboratory of learning. So the biggest tip is don't wait. Yeah, I waited too long. I waited close to 5 years or something like that, 5 or 6 years before I stepped into meaningful roles in Toastmasters. So I say to all members, yeah, don't wait, just jump in. You won't be disappointed. You won't be like, especially the district level roles. Like I don't know, there's lots of challenges. I'm thoroughly enjoying the club growth director opportunity and all the things that have happened so far and will continue to happen. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you for that. Any other questions from the crowd before I ask one more, and then we probably should get close to wrapping up because I think we have about 3 minutes left.
To
Yes.
add on to what Stephen was just saying, I'd say as a new leader, don't be afraid to find a good mentor who will help you and that learn the role.
Yes.
Yes,
And
that's a good point.
I have one mentor in this very room right here. It's Laverne. Laverne is awesome. Past district director. I'm very good point, Stephen. Yeah, finding mentorships is really important at all levels.
Yeah.
Not just for the new member, for the experienced leader as well. Everyone has blind spots. It's just how it is with people.
So I guess we'll end with one last question here. So what was the best thing about taking on a leadership role? If you could tell us one thing that was the greatest thing for taking on a leadership role, what would that be?
I'm surprised about, at least in the recent roles that I've taken, how transferable the skills have been in my personal career and work environment. It's kind of funny when I started as Toastmasters, I just wanted to become better at speaking in front of small groups, and I overcame that challenge. And of course, the Toastmasters way, you don't realize it's happening, and then you look back, you're like, oh wow, I can really introduce myself well in front of team meetings at work. That's not a problem anymore, where it was a problem before. But now as a leader, I'm finding, especially as a club growth director, I'm naturally doing things that Toastmasters is kind of like, because I've been doing it as a club growth director. One perfect example is the club building life cycle. So, you want to, identify leads, and then you qualify with the organization if Toastmasters is a good fit, and then it moves to a demo, and then, you eventually get to the charter process. But the piece that was really transferable for me just within my organization. So I'm not selling anything, but here I am, I jump into a new role. And the whole concept of that building cycle is that, okay, you reach out, you do a 5-minute call, and then you have a discovery meeting, which is kind of like you're building rapport, and you're just going to learn about the organization. You're learning about those decision makers. Is this a right fit? What do we want to do next? Is there interest? Well, holy smokes, I jumped into this new role, product manager. And the first thing I do, I want to set up some really brief touch points with the different directors that I got to, build rapport with and engage with. And then I reflected, holy crap, I'm doing the club building process. It's not a sales cycle, but it's sort of a sales cycle, as I'm trying to understand the customers or the business owners that I have to work with, because I'm going to be serving their needs. So I have to build that rapport. So having that quick meet and greet intro, you do a little understanding of what their directorate is doing and what their roles and responsibilities, and telling a little bit what I do, and then finding the middle ground on how we can work together. That was the start of that conversation. So we've been practicing this for the past 6-7 months in the club growth director role. So it's when I dawned on it, it's like, holy smokes, that's like, before it was kind of like, oh, there's associative value, but then this was like, holy smokes, that's like a one-to-one translatable skill building value that was immediately relevant to my current role. And holy smokes, Toastmasters is sneaky like a ninja that way. So I don't know, it's crazy. It's like, it didn't dawn on me immediately, but I'm like, wait a minute.
I've actually had that experience too, where I'm like, I jump into something and I'm doing it and it's like second nature. And it's like, wait a minute, because I've done this before in Toastmasters.
Yeah.
Example for me is setting up a registration desk at a convention. It's like, I can go there and I can set everything up and tell them everything they need. And this is how it's going to work and where we're going to organize. And it's like, wait, I've done this before.
Yeah. And people will comment, how are you doing this so well? It's like, oh, I guess I've done it a couple of times.
I second that, okay? It's just that sometimes we take it for granted. And sometimes I ask my team, my work team, oh, can you do this presentation like this afternoon? I'm talking about just right, they just have like 1 hour, 2 hours, right? And then, no, I need time to prepare. Oh, don't worry. It's just, oh, I just realized that, we've been doing this like impromptu table topics kind of a thing. It's just like, and they need time to prepare. And if you do it for a while, it's just like, it's nature, second nature to you, right? So, awesome.
When I first joined Toastmasters, I wrote out my speeches and then I tried to memorize it word for word and word. And that's how I started off as Toastmasters and that. But about 2 years ago, one of my clubs came to me on a Friday night and said, can you give a speech tomorrow afternoon? And I got out a cue card. I wrote 8 words on that cue card, and 5 of those words were my title. And I was able to deliver a 7-minute speech from 8 words on a cue card.
That's awesome.
Yes, we definitely develop those skills, like you say, sneaky like a ninja. Well, I see we're a little over time here. I just wanted to thank Stephen for giving his presentation today. Let's unmute and give him some applause.
Thanks, Stephen.
Yay, Stephen.
You're very welcome. Very
Stephen.
welcome.
And I will turn it back over to you to end off the session and introduce the next one that's happening next week.
All right, sounds good. So I'm just putting in a couple items in the chat, so bear with me, and then yes, then we can do the quick preamble. See if I can get these in here. So I'll send that. So I just got a few. And they're just related to the Distinguished Club program and the presentation here. I think I want this one. Okay, I think that's the last. So I put in a few documents in there of interest. So there's a chapter that I wrote, which is the 30,000-pound journey that you might be interested in reading. And then there's some information about the district recognition program and club, success distinguished club program. As well as the slide deck for this presentation. So next week, that concludes session number 2 for leadership confidence building. Session number 3, we have a guest speaker from District 101. So it's the program quality director from District 101. That's Abhijit Yoshi. He's a very experienced leader, and he'll be speaking about the merit of leadership. So MERIT is an acronym that he's developed, which I think has some really key points and good takeaways for any leader, and it's M.E.R.I.T. So I'm not going to steal any thunder on what MERIT stands for. You have to come next Thursday to find out more about the merit of leadership. And thank you for being the audience tonight. I really appreciate it, and great questions and discussion. I hope you found a value out of this, and that concludes tonight's session.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks.